Happy Sunday, guys! I'm glad that you could join me. My name is Mandy, and I take this time every week about, I'd say maybe a half an hour, just to talk about my knitting and my crafting and my crocheting, and I'm super happy that you could join me today. I have one finished object, and I have one new cast on. I'm also working on a crochet dress for my daughter, and it is going very gray. And you will see what I mean when I show it to you. But I hope that you're having a wonderful week. I am here in southeastern Michigan where it is freezing. Yeah, basically freezing. We're at 7 degrees, and I know it's not as cold as like some people, but it is still fairly cold here, and I am totally ready to just go jump under the covers and stay there until at least the rest of this upcoming week, because we're supposed to be in the teens for like the next 7 days or so, and I'm not feeling the vibe, as my 8-year-old would say. It's not a good thing here. I have had a week. We'll just leave it at that. It is what it is, right? I am in a wheelchair, so whenever it gets snowy, it kind of cuts me off from a lot of things. Whenever you're in a wheelchair and you need it for mobility, because I'm paralyzed, right? So I can't get up and walk around, and whenever there's snow, and now we have snow, it kind of makes it hard, and you have to really plan ahead and think, hey, is this place going to have a shoveled path? Because like wheelchairs aren't really meant for off-roading. I'm sure my husband could get me through snow like this deep, but like, no, right? So January and February are gonna be kind of sketchier. Anyways, so I'm glad that you could join us. We're freezing here in Michigan, and my first finished object kind of represents that, right? Because if this is a hat, and this is a no pattern hat, right? I cast on 74 stitches. This is Madeline Tosh A.S.A.P. I got this from Jimmy Bean's Wool whenever they were, what were they doing? They were doing a wool watch. They brought back their Wool Watchers, which was basically a web part of their web page that refreshes constantly with sale deals for certain yarns. And this had come up, and I got I got one skein of this, and I did another hat the previous episode that I finished for A.S.A.P. as well, and I believe the colorway was called Grace Notes. This one is called, I think, Blood Runs Cold, which kind of fits. Now, you can take a look at my stitches, and they are quite uneven because I have not blocked this yet. And the reason I have not blocked this yet is because it is 7 degrees, and the chance of it actually drying before I needed to film it on the podcast is slim to none. So, as you can imagine, right after this is going to get a bath, at least this part of it, and the stitches should even out pretty well. Now, I love this hat color. It is very, like, red, right? Red. And let's see, this is, right here. And I love the little pom-pom. And it probably looks kind of weird because, hey, I have a clip-on on my hair. But I tend to make a lot of hats throughout the winter. I actually make a lot of hats throughout the year. I find them really great projects that don't take a lot of thought. Like I said, I cast on 74 stitches, and then when I got to a certain point, I found a stitch count, a number that was divisible by the stitch count to decrease. So we have some nice decreases there, and then I ended it. No pattern, just You know, nothing fancy. I do like stockinette hats. I think that they're just nondescript, and people who might not like, you know, hats with pizzazz. I mean, that's not me. I love pizzazz hats, but like, you know, my 13-year-old son, he would wear something like this, right? So I would also wear it because I love this color. This took me maybe a day or two. I didn't work on it a lot. I've been actually kind of struggling with my daughter's dress. It is a lot of gray. A lot of gray. So I would say that this took maybe 4 or 5 hours of knitting. I'm a terrible judge of like how many hours something takes me. Even at work, when somebody needs me to give an estimate, like a size estimate on a software task, it's very hard to, you kind of have to say, well, this is a small, but you compare it to like a large project, and it kind of makes it easier that way. I'm babbling, but I love this hat, and I hope whoever ends up with it will too, maybe me. So I mentioned that I have, well, a work in progress that I'm working on right now, and it is for my daughter. Now, before I say anything else, I'm going to talk about my sweater, and this sweater is basically the sweater that broke my heart. This is the East or West by Joji Locatelli, and I love this pattern. I love the way this sweater looks. I love everything about this sweater. But look really close. Can you see it? Do you see it? Here, I will tell you if you can't see it. The pink magenta yarn bled into the light gray, and that is so sad to me. It, like I said, it broke my heart. I still wear this sweater though, because, you know, I worked very hard on it, and I try not to perpetuate like a throwaway society. I mean, this is quite a bit of yarn, and it was quite a bit of work. And honestly, if somebody cares that much that the yarn bled into the other color yarn, then, you know, yeah, I think you guys know. So this is my daughter's, oh, you can see the line down the back before you started working in the round. So let me show you this side because it looks nicer. This is, I will put it down below because I have no clue what this pattern is called. I don't know, like Abigail's fairy dress or something, maybe? So the deal with this dress is it is crocheted, and I'm using a 4mm hook. And the way that it works is you start and you have this body, and you work to the body, and whenever you decide, you start to do this skirt. Now, there are points to the skirt, and the points are, you can customize how many points you want. I think it's like 4, 6, 8, 10. Now, there's a note in the pattern that says 10 is for the smaller sizes or for the very brave. Now, this crochet dress is for my daughter, but I decided I was going to make her a slightly bigger size so she could wear it longer, and I decided to do 10 points. So there's that. It is fingering weight yarn. The yarn is Whirl from A.S.A.P. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And I actually used a smaller skein of the Whirl base, and it's called Whirlette, and that was the gray. So basically, I just started introducing the actual whirl, and as you can see, it's right here. Now, a funny thing about this yarn is that from everything I've read, you do not want to pull from the inside of the skein because it will turn into like a giant mess. And I started thinking, and I'm like, well, that sounds terrible, and I definitely don't want that to happen. And as I'm crocheting with the whirl and the whirlette, well, the whirlette more than the whirl, but it's the same yarn, it's just a smaller package. So as I'm crocheting with the whirlette, I've noticed that it starts to tangle on itself and it will form knots that you have to kind of work to get out. And here I am like, oh my gosh, I cannot start this from the middle because the middle of this yarn, this was basically reversed. So I took this and rewound it so the colors would be opposite so I could work from the outside. But of course I had to stick some, I actually stuck toilet paper in there, obviously clean toilet paper, but I didn't want the skein to collapse on itself. So, I mean, that was the only thing I had handy on my dresser. So, I'm hoping that this works okay. It obviously should, but it's very different to have to rewind a skein to get it to where it's not going to collapse, and hopefully it will all be good. So, as you can see at the very bottom, or maybe not, I am one row into where the skein of yarn starts changing to where one of the threads is white. So now eventually we're going to go from gray to like this white color to light pink to neon pink. So I can't wait for that to happen. This is hitting my daughter as of now like about an inch above her belly button. So it's going to be quite, well, maybe, I don't know. It's so hard to judge, right? This is 1,100 yards and I pretty much just started this. It's very hard to judge because you're increasing every round for these points. I mean, so how much yarn how far is this going to last? I don't know. It's kind of like a mystery, but it will definitely reach the pink. It will. How do I know this? I know this because I looked at the different project pages on Ravelry, and they all seem to say that they needed about 1.5 of these for the size that I'm making, which is 9 to 13, although the pattern that I am using doesn't really deal with sizes in the traditional sense. I mean, there's no, hey, cast on this amount for size A and do this for size B and increase this many times for size C. It's not like that. It's more of a chain until it fits around their neck and then work this until this measurement on them. So it's not really a sized pattern. It's more of a recipe. But I'm excited about it. I hope that she likes it. And like I said, it's more of a learning experience. I've never made a dress, and since this yarn is cotton and acrylic, I'm kind of worried that it's going to stretch. So I started thinking, they mentioned that the armholes stretch, and there are certain parts of the dress that are going to get more pull than others. I'm thinking the neck, the arms, and then right where it like the waist, where it starts to flare out. I'm wondering what would happen if I sewed in some ribbon, kind of as reinforcement. Ribbon or something else that might be used to do stuff like this. I have no clue. I am not a sewist. So it would just be kind of like a trial and error, something that I do to see if it helps, because I really don't want it to stretch too much and the weight might just be a little bit too much for it. So I guess we'll see. I do love the idea of this dress though, and it works up very similarly to the star blanket that I love. So once you get like to where you start dealing with the the flaring out, it is pretty much the star blanket pattern. Depending, I mean, obviously the points are worked the same way, right? That's what I'm trying to say. And that is so cool to me because it's very easy to do. So while it's mindless crocheting, it is fingering weight yarn, and there is quite a lot of it. And I'm hoping that I'll see some very pretty color changes here soon to kind of inspire me to work more on it. I did do quite a bit though, because last week I had just the top part of it. But part of me is scared, right? Like, am I going to get enough of, like, I want to use this entire skein. My daughter is short. So what I'll do is I'm going to assess next week to see, hey, am I going to be able to use all of this yarn? Because I definitely need to. If I can't, I'll have to kind of think again about how much gray I use up at the top. But I really don't want to, because I thought it would be really pretty to have gray up here and then slowly fade for the flares at the bottom. But like I said, she's not that tall. She takes after me because I am very short too. This has been a very fun little pattern, and I did learn how to do some of, like, well, I guess I didn't learn technically, but I do like these little sleeve triangle adornments that they have on the sleeves here. I thought they were really pretty. And I'm hoping that it doesn't take as long as I think it will, because I think it's going to take quite a bit. But you know what? Now that I'm on the flare part, maybe not, because I can make a blanket pretty quickly. I don't even want to say that, because that's not true. When I say a blanket, I mean like a little star blanket, not like an actual blanket. Those are not quick for me at all. But like a little 1,100 yard star blanket, those aren't too bad. So I'm hoping that this dress won't be either. Like I said, it's a learning experience for me. I've been really thinking about my knitting and crochet and crafting in general, and how I really want to grow as a crafter. I mean, I think that's a pretty apt way to describe it, right? I don't want to keep doing the same things. I kind of want to stretch myself. So in the next year, if you see me try, say, color work or brioche, and it looks terrible, and you're like, it's basically because I'm trying to stretch my skills as a crafter and try the more complicated things, just to say that I tried them, see if I like them, and kind of learn how to do them, especially with color work. I have very many patterns in my queue on Ravelry that I really want to try that are color work. I love the idea of having all over color work sweaters. I actually have one of them, the outcrop, but that's pretty much the only one I've ever really done. Yeah, I would be apt to say that, at least with charts. Some of the other sweaters that I've done have color changes, but not really color charts that you would have to read. I would like experience in carrying floats and working different colors back and forth, and I think that type of knitting is absolutely beautiful. And since I love hats and I love making hats, I think that hats are like the perfect mini project to try color work on before I move over into sweaters. So there should be more on that soon, at least hopefully. Now, that's my crochet work in progress for this week. I did start a hat. Now, I am a big fan of the Muscle Burrow pattern by Isolde Teague. Now, this is the start of a Muscle Burrow hat that this is actually, if you've never knit this pattern, this is how the pattern starts. So this is the crown of the hat, and basically I'm increasing until I get to the point where it's going to fit the head. And the pattern has great instructions on how to make this work no matter what yarn you're using. So basically the idea is to cast on and work for 1 inch to where you can actually measure your gauge. And then the pattern has complete instructions on all different types of gauges. And it works well, and I love it. And I especially love it for fingering weight yarn because for me, it tends to use a whole 100-gram skein of yarn. Now, this is a hat for my son, and this is Blackbird Sycamore yarn in the color Red Room. Now, he picked this one out himself, and he loves it. And if you can tell, I have 2 strings here because I am a stickler for avoiding color pooling. If you've watched any more of my episodes, you can see how I've worked very hard to kind of minimize color pooling. So if I'm working on a variegated yarn, I will basically knit 2 rows and then swap. Now for this, which I only have 1 skein of, I am working from the inside and the outside. I could definitely wind them into 2 separate cakes, but to be honest, I am just kind of lazy, so I did it this way. And it's working. He loves it. I love the red and black and white colors. I think that it's going to be a very unique hat when it's done. And whenever he saw it, he was like squealing and jumping because he was happy. So what more could you want from a hat, from a kid who wants a hat? So anyways, as I said with the Muscle Burrow pattern, you work out your increases. You've got 4 different sections and you're increasing. I have stitch markers to show where I'm increasing each round. Well, not each round, every other round. And eventually you increase enough for your hat size and then you just start working round and around and around and around. Now you work around and around and around and around until, well, in my case, I work around and around until I have like 8-ish grams left of yarn, and then I start doing the decreases on the other side. And that basically seals up the tube. So I have a long tube and then I shove one side of the tube into the other and it turns into a hat. And it is the simplest idea ever, but it's amazing and I love it. So I have another colorway just like this. Well, not just like this. I have another colorway that's variegated like this called Stormy Night. And I don't know if I'm going to let that one pool or not because I think it would be really pretty. You know, I won't know until I'm actually knitting it. Sometimes I'm a real stickler about color, like just colors in general. But I don't know. I think that this would also have been pretty pooled. But that's just not what I had decided to do at this time. So I guess we'll see what happens. I do love how, like, it just, okay, I started off as a crocheter, and generally, I shouldn't say generally, a lot of the times when you crochet a hat, you start off from the crown. So when I moved to knit, it's like the opposite. A lot of times when you're knitting a hat, you start off at the ribbing and work your way up in decreases, like I did with this one. But for the Muscle Burrow, you're starting off at the crown again and working your way down. And you know what? I like it. It's new. It makes my brain think a little bit. I shouldn't say it's new, right? It's not, obviously not new. It's different. It's exciting. And I love the pattern and I love making these. And hopefully my son really likes his hat. Other than that, I don't really have anything else to talk about. Is that sad? It's been a heck of a week. So I'm going to give like just a couple of minutes with life stuff. So if you aren't interested in that, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate that you took a little bit of time just to hang out with me. And if you could give this video a thumbs up or hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, I would really appreciate it. Okay, so life stuff and book stuff. I am reading Pet Sematary. That's weird, right? It is kind of weird. So I have never read Pet Sematary by Stephen King, and I am about 3 hours away from being finished with it. Now, if you don't know the premise of the book, and I'm sure you probably already do, but here, I'll give you like a 30-second summary. So Pet Sematary, a guy moves to Maine with his family. Their cat dies. He buries their cat in an ancient burial ground. The cat comes back. The cat's really weird. He finds out that things buried in the ancient burial ground come back kind of odd, kind of weird. There have been cases where things have come back kind of mean. There was one person who was buried there that came back very, very weird. And it's just all this paranormal stuff. Anyways, the man's 2-year-old son dies. So needless to say, he's right now digging up his 2-year-old son. And that's where I am in the book. That's actually 3 hours left of the book, which is crazy, right? Because that final like 3 hours is what you consider Pet Sematary when you talk about it. I like horror books. I like Stephen King books. I like thrillers. I like science fiction books. I'm not too big on romance books. I mean, it's just not my jam. I'm not feeling those. I try sometimes, but it just, I can't do it. I am more happy and comfortable reading books that make me think. I like Fairy Tale by Stephen King is a great book. I love like Andy Weir books. So he wrote The Martian. He wrote Project Hail Mary. Some great books there. I really like Adrian Tchaikovsky, but I just can't deal with the certain genres, especially if I feel like they're kind of contrived. I like books where people act like people act in real life. So like I was reading this book and I put it right back because it started out and the lady was just the narrator who was narrating the book, and I can't remember what book it was, but the narrator was just like all dramatic and just there was so much drama in her voice that I was like, I like reading for non, I like reading just to relax. How's that? Anyways, now that I've told you all about the books that I've read, how about telling you all about the week that I've had? So we have snow, which basically means that it's kind of like stay inside until March, basically. And if you haven't been here for a while, or if you don't know, I had spinal cord surgery in November. So I had it on November 6th. Now, some like very small background with me as a person. When I was 10, I had a spinal cord ependymoma, which is a type of tumor that grew basically entangled in the nerves where your spinal cord ends and the nerves all spread out. So it was quoting the doctors, I don't have a specific number, but all I remember saying, because obviously I was 10, was that it was as big as a grapefruit. Now, they dug, for lack of a better word, the tumor out of my spinal cords, and I wasn't supposed to walk, and I could walk, and I could run, and I could climb trees, and I could rollerblade, and all of that good stuff. Until I turned 30, and I started noticing that, do you know how when things run out of batteries, they start slowing down? I noticed that that was happening to my lower body. And that sounds very odd, but so I'm 38 now. So from 30 to 38, I basically slowed down. And now I am with pretty much no functionality. I mean, I can move my legs, just not in any meaningful way. And although we had the surgery to think that maybe it would help, I had a spinal cord blockage, and they were able to completely remove everything, and it was great, but I'm not getting any type of meaningful functionality back. And this week has been basically me trying to come to terms with, no matter how hard I work, and it doesn't matter if I have certain exercises. Obviously, physical therapy gives you exercises and certain things that I do to try to strengthen my legs, and I've got to kind of convince I don't want to say that. I need to come to the conclusion that no matter how hard I really work at it, it's not going to give me the results that I need or want. So that's pretty much what this week has been. I know that sounds kind of, I don't want to say awful, but kind of dubious. But when you think about spinal cord issues and nerve damage, there's not anything that they can do. So there is a clinical trial for a medicine called NerveGen, but the clinical trial is in phase 2 right now, and even though it's being rushed, they're doing non-traumatic or only traumatic injuries in the upper part of the spine. So I do not meet the requirements for the trial, and who knows if it'll work, who knows if it'll get approved. Other than that, there's not really much. There's things like exoskeletons, but I mean, those cost as much as a house, right? So I'm just going to work from now on. I'm going to do the exercises because they make me feel good, and I am going to work on controlling what I can control, which is taking care of myself. And I love to knit, and I love talking about my knitting with you guys, so I can control that, and I will try to get better at my crafts. And I will also try to learn as much as I can, which is one of the things that I love to do. My entire adult life, I have always loved learning. So right now I am working on an AWS certification for their Solutions Architect Associate, and I'm on 34% of the class, and I'm hoping that in the spring sometime, maybe early summer, probably late spring, I should be able to take that certification, and I really want to get it because, in my opinion, it's a goal that I can complete, and that will make my heart happy. But other than that, that's pretty much all that's been going on. We have tomorrow off, or at least I do. My poor husband still has to work, but my kids don't. And we're going to spend the day just chilling and hanging out. And I love, you know what? I do complain about going out, not being able to like go outside and just whatever I would do if I had a little bit more mobility, but I do love just chilling and hanging out. Earlier this weekend, I was just relaxing next to my daughter and I was crocheting and she was sleeping, not sleeping, but she was cuddling in her little mermaid blanket that I made her, and she loves that. So that made me happy. I did get, well, we as a family did get a gift certificate to the Olive Garden, so I'm hoping that sometime soon we'll be able to go to it. That seems like a really nice, like a restaurant. We don't normally go out to eat, and I think it's just because it's like a huge hassle with both of us working and then the kids at school, and it's always kind of rush. But I'm hoping that sometime in the next couple of weeks we can go there. We are planning on taking our kids to the water park hotel that we always take them to for a couple of days in February, and I can't wait for that. They have the cutest yarn store there, and I love going there. And I love going there because they're wide open aisles and I can, zoom back and forth, and it's super easy to get around and see all of the yarn. And I love like just being in the same environment as other knitters and other people that love crafting as much as I do. So that's something that I'm definitely going to look forward to. I hope that you guys also have things that you're looking forward to. I know that winter can be, kind of harsh for people. Once the holidays are over, it's kind of like everybody's way up here for the holidays, and then it kind of like, the cold, and it seems like in January and February the cold never ends, and then March comes along and it's not really less cold, but it is kind of less cold, but it's more rainy. I am a true like July, August type person. I love those months, right? I could live just with nothing but July and August all year. I'm already 40 minutes in and I'm just blabbering. I hope that you enjoyed the knitting content today, and I hope that you enjoyed the crochet content as well, because I had some of that. I am super excited to hopefully next time you see me, I will be on the pink. Well, I shouldn't say that. Hopefully next time you see me, I will be like right here from the cake. I'm hoping. And it will kind of like brighten up the whole dress. I'm really interested to see how it flares out, because since I did 10 points, it's gonna have like a super twirly effect. That is all I have for this week. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you got some crafting done for the 40 minutes that I've been talking. And I hope to see you guys next week. If you could, please hit the thumbs up or subscribe if you feel like it, if you'd like to see more videos from me. I hope to see you guys back next week. Thank you. Bye.